Welcome to A Moment of Zen. Time to sit back and relax as model, actress, mentor, and supermom Zen Sams takes you on a sexy and wild ride, covering the latest in film, fashion, pop culture, cryptocurrency, fintech, cannabis, and entertainment from the millennial mom's perspective. Here's your host, Zen Sams.
Hello, my beautiful tri-state area. Welcome to our 159th episode. Always such a pleasure to spend my time with you on the airwaves. Thank you for listening and interacting with me on social media. That truly makes it all worthwhile. Please make sure to follow us at Zen Sams. That's Zen with an X, not a Z. And remember that all of our episodes stream 24/7 on Your Home TV and Kathy Ireland worldwide. Of course, you can always find us on our YouTube channel at Zen Sams. We upload every Sunday at 2 p.m. Up next in our Hydration with Heart segment, brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut, we're featuring disability awareness influencer and model Bri Scalesse. She advocates for disability representation in media and air travel rights for wheelchair users. Today, we're chatting modeling, social activism, and navigating life in a wheelchair. In Discover Your Potential segment, brought to you by The Wellness Way, we're joined by contributor, podcaster, and host Anna Devere. Today, she's going to be joined by veteran holistic physician Dr. Bradley Nelson, one of the world's foremost experts on natural methods of achieving wellness. He's an international trainer and speaker and the author of the best-selling books, The Emotion Code and The Body Code. They joined me today to chat all about holistic healing, the power of energy, and all about the Emotion Code method. In our Going Deep segment, brought to you by CO2 Lift, we're featuring Dr. Michael Reed, a skilled cosmetic gynecologist who is passionate about helping women feel confident and revitalized. He joins me today to help demystify sexual shame, talk openly about women's health and wellness. We're going to chat about the benefits of sexual pleasure, how to maximize celebration of self, and the many proprietary benefits of carbon dioxide therapy for vaginal rejuvenation. Stay tuned for the Hydration with Heart segment featuring Bri Scalesse. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut, 100% pure coconut water. Imagine a drink that's nutrient-rich, powerfully refreshing, naturally sweet with no added sugars, not from concentrate, zero additives, low in calories, absolutely no artificial flavors, and is so tasty that it will become your new favorite beverage. Enter Once Upon a Coconut, the absolute best tasting coconut water you will ever try. Available in 4 refreshing flavors: pure, chocolate, pineapple, and sparkling with energy. Do your taste buds a favor and pick up some today at onceuponacoconut.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in the Hydration with Heart segment, brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut, we're featuring disability awareness influencer and model Bri Scalesse. She advocates for disability representation in media and air travel rights for wheelchair users. She's a viral social media influencer with hundreds of thousands of followers on Instagram and TikTok. Now, after her time as a professional dancer with the Roulettes, she's modeled for Google, Victoria's Secret, NARS, Sephora, UGG, Skims, Rimmel, London, so many, just to name a few. I could go on. Maybelline, Tommy Hilfiger. She shot with almost everyone. Now, she joins me today. She's going to help me demystify the stigmas surrounding disabilities and advocate for wheelchair users worldwide. We're chatting modeling, social activism, and navigating life in a wheelchair with a super beautiful, talented Bri Scalesse. Welcome to the show, Stunner.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
This is amazing. So let's jump right in. We know that about 10% of the global population, that's about 650 million people, have disabilities. And it also currently, it's estimated that 132 million people, it's about 2% of the global population, require a wheelchair. So these are big numbers. As a prominent advocate for disability representation, could you shed light on the current state of representation in media?
Yeah, so to throw another statistic out there, 1 in 4 people in the US are considered disabled, but only 3% of characters on television are represented and also in film as people with disabilities. And even then, sometimes it's not a disabled person playing the character. So representation, since I was even a young girl, I would say, has come a long way. We're seeing a lot more representation in the media, I would say, especially since the pandemic. But I would say representation is still very much lagging behind for people with disabilities. And when we are represented, it's a lot of stereotypes, and we're not represented kind of as our fullest selves.
You're 100% right. I was reading to prep for this interview that the Annenberg School for Communication and Journalism revealed that in the top 100 films of 2019, only 2.3% of the speaking characters were depicted with a disability, so making the numbers even more narrow. Now, we have 26 million Americans aged 5 and older. They have self-reported travel limiting disabilities. That's like we're talking about 13 to 15 million are aged 18 to 65, and we have over 11 million that are 65 and older. So access is extremely, extremely important. Could you share some insights into the challenges faced by wheelchair users, particularly in air travel?
Yes. So I would say access as a whole is a challenge for wheelchair users and disabled people, but particularly in air travel, it's a major, major struggle. So 20 wheelchairs are broken a day by airlines. And I think that people don't realize how essential a wheelchair is to a person, not just having a wheelchair, but actually having your own wheelchair that's custom made for your body. It's like a part of our body. So when our wheelchairs are broken, it's extremely detrimental to our physical health. There was actually an incredible disabled activist who passed away due to having her wheelchair broken, not being in her own wheelchair, and then having injuries due to that. So I've experienced having my own wheelchair broken by airlines, and my best friend has experienced it. And it is an extremely frustrating time because it's like a part of your body is not with you. So, as well as our wheelchairs not being handled properly by airlines, we also often, a lot of us aren't able to use the bathroom on flights. So, we are kind of portioning out our liquid intake and what we eat the day before because we know we're not going to be able to use the airplane's bathroom because they're not accessible to wheelchair users.
That's horrific.
Yeah, very
To
frustrating.
to think that this is where we're at in the year 2024. I know that, we're big on surveys because we can only go by statistics to address these issues and be socially active. But the survey conducted by the Muscular Dystrophy Association found that, to your point, 55% of wheelchair users reported experiencing issues related to accessibility or damage when traveling by air. So these numbers, and probably these numbers are underreported if you ask me, because not everybody's actually reporting this. Now, you've been incredibly successful as a model for various renowned brands. I named a whole bunch of them in the intro. How do you think the fashion industry has progressed in terms of inclusivity towards individuals with disabilities?
Yeah, so when I was little, the reason I wanted to become a model is because I didn't see anyone who looked like me in modeling and in the fashion space. And I would say it's definitely come a long way since I was a little girl. I think inclusivity really started to pop off after the pandemic. And we really saw in 2021, 2022, a lot of inclusivity for people with disabilities in major brands, but it is still mainly in the commercial space, I would say more so, rather than the high fashion space. We're really not seeing any wheelchair users represented in the high fashion space. If ever, it's one person on a runway a season, which is really frustrating because we're such a large part of the population. So I really think fashion still has a long way to go, but it's definitely gotten better. We're really seeing ourselves represented in those commercial brands. So now we just have to see it more in the high fashion space.
Yeah, baby steps, baby steps. The Fashion and the Beauty Monitor Diversity Report found that in 2020, less than 3% of models featured in fashion campaigns identified as having a disability. But to your point, it marks an improvement from the previous years. So it's a slow but steady increase in inclusivity efforts. And I think we just have to keep at it, keep advocating. So, can you discuss the impact of empowering young disabled women through modeling and dance? I know that's important to you.
Yes. So honestly, the core of everything that I do is when I get a message from a young girl saying, seeing you made me feel beautiful in my wheelchair, or seeing you in that campaign made me feel worthy. I think that when we don't see versions of ourselves on screen, in media, in fashion, we don't know where we fit. And I very much felt like that as a young girl. And so it is incredibly important to see versions of yourself, so that you can feel empowered. And I think that that's at the core of the reason of why I continue to do what I do. And I think that particularly with modeling, dance, acting, seeing yourself represented in those spaces is massive for disabled people because we, as we said, we are so underrepresented.
Without a doubt. And, if you look at the psychological and emotional effects of participation in physical activities like dance, this significantly improves self esteem and body image, specifically among people with individuals with disabilities like yourself. And a study published in the Journal of Rehabilitation Medicine found that engaging in these activities that promote self expression, like modeling, exactly what you're doing, enhances overall well-being and social integration for individuals with disabilities. So it's extremely important that you stick to the roadmap that you set out for yourself, because you're doing a fantastic job and you made so many people proud of you. Now, social media, let's go back to that. You're an influencer, you have hundreds of thousands of followers on TikTok and on Instagram. How has social media played a significant role really in amplifying your advocacy efforts? And how do you think platforms like Instagram and TikTok have helped and raise awareness about disability rights?
Yeah, so I would say that with social media, we are kind of having control of our own narrative as people with disabilities. We get to show who we truly are to the world without any filtered narrative or lack of representation. Also, the communities that we can build. I've found such a beautiful community through TikTok and through Instagram, and that is so essential, especially when people become new wheelchair users, to feeling like they're not alone, to feeling like there is a purpose to keep living, to feeling like they can have a beautiful life. I really didn't get to see that much when I was little. So now I feel like with social media, there's such a power to seeing women living their dreams, to seeing people living their dreams in wheelchairs.
It's definitely connected the community, and that's what social media is. It breeds the right community, and if used properly, it's so impactful and useful. You have 70% of adults that are aged between 18 and 30 that are on Instagram, and these platforms really just provide such a vast audience for disability advocates like yourself to share your story and really educate others, because it's really just about sharing your story, educating and inspiring. That's all you could do, right? So this is extremely important. So I think that social media definitely empowers individuals with disabilities by providing these very platforms for self-representation and community building and bonding, really. So what are some misconceptions people have about navigating life in a wheelchair?
Yeah, so I would say the most common misconception, unfortunately, is that it's not a life worth living and that it's not a full life. And even as I'm going about my day outside in New York City, I have people asking me questions about my life. Am I able to live on my own? Do I have a job? And I think that people don't understand how absolutely amazing life can be with a disability. There's a lot of adaptations that have to happen when you first become disabled, when you first become a wheelchair user. But once you figure that out, you are just as capable of living an amazing life as any other person. So I would say that is the biggest misconception, is that our lives are not as valuable as a non-disabled life.
Well, the fact of the matter is that you're 100% accurate, because the survey conducted by Scope, and Scope is a UK-based disability charity. Are you ready? 67% of respondents felt that the general public has a limited understanding of the challenges faced by wheelchair users. Now, that's close to 70% what we're talking about, right? Feel that no one understands what wheelchair users are going through. Now, if you go even one step further, they revealed that stereotypes and misconceptions about disabilities lead to social exclusion and discrimination. So it's just one big vicious circle. And I always urge the public to educate themselves and to stop the discrimination and to really lend their hand to social activism and inclusivity to demystify the stigmas surrounding exactly what we're talking about today. So, what do you hope to achieve through your advocacy work in the future, and how can individuals support your efforts?
Yeah, I think through my advocacy, through my modeling, I hope to not only improve the representation of people with disabilities, but help shift those stereotypes, help shift those narratives so that people can see that we are just as worthy as everyone else. People can support that by following my social media, and also by, I think just educating themselves on the way that disabled people live our lives on all of these statistics that we're talking about, and understanding that we are a huge part of the population.
Yeah, of course, you're a huge part of the population, and you have every right to exist alongside equally everybody else. And that's what I think people don't realize, and their beliefs are limited because their knowledge is limited. And we know that knowledge is power. So keep educating, keep doing what you're doing. Of course, your roadmap is quite unique, and God has a plan for everyone. Now, if you could go back and give advice to your younger self, what would you say?
I would say that everything is going to be okay. My younger self felt so alone, not seeing any versions of herself, and felt really, I think, hopeless at one point. And I would tell myself that things are going to be so much more incredible than you could ever imagine, and to just believe in yourself. I feel like as I've gotten older, believing in myself, believing in the possibilities for me has really changed everything. So I would just say, like, yeah, it's going to be okay.
It's gonna be okay. Well, that is the end of this fabulous interview. I could talk to you forever. You are so amazing and transparent, and I loved chatting with you today.
Thank you so much for having me.
The tests we face in life's journey are not to reveal our weaknesses, but to help us discover our inner strengths. We can only know how strong we are when we strive and thrive beyond the challenges we face. And all the energy in the universe is evenly present in all places at the same time. Remember that. We don't get energy, we release energy. And the triggering mechanism to release energy is desire. When you have a strong desire to do something, you will always have the energy to do it, just like Bri Scalesse has done. That was our Hydration with Heart segment, brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut. Do check out Bri on the gram at Bri Scalesse, and you can also check her out on TikTok. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. That was our Hydration with Heart segment, brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Once Upon a Coconut, 100% pure coconut water. Imagine a drink that's nutrient rich, powerfully refreshing, naturally sweet with no added sugars, not from concentrate, zero additives, low in calories, absolutely no artificial flavors, and is so tasty that it will become your new favorite beverage. Enter Once Upon a Coconut, the absolute best tasting coconut water you will ever try. Available in 4 refreshing flavors: pure, chocolate, pineapple, and sparkling with energy. Do your taste buds a favor and pick up some today at onceuponacoconut.com.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Your Home TV with Kathy Ireland and their channel partners. Head to yourhometv.com for free, family-friendly programming, streaming 24/7.
Check out Firehouse Kitchen. Firefighter Ray combines firefighter lifestyle and fine cuisine. Join him as he travels the country searching for the finest chefs among our bravest heroes. Check out firehouse.kitchentv.com and catch every episode on yourhometv.com. These cooks save lives.
Tune in to A Moment of Zen, Saturday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. A Moment of Zen is brought to you by The Wellness Way, your trusted partner in health restoration. Now you can feel amazing at any age with their foundational testing and mind-body approach. The Wellness Way offers in-clinic and telehealth support when you're ready to test, not guess, what your body needs. Discover your best health by visiting their website, thewellnessway.com, and selecting a clinic near you. Do health differently at thewellnessway.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in Discover Your Potential segment, brought to you by The Wellness Way. Today we're joined by contributor, podcaster, and host Anna Devere. Today she's joined by veteran holistic physician Dr. Bradley Nelson, one of the world's foremost experts on natural methods of achieving wellness. He's an international trainer, speaker, the author of best-selling books, The Emotion Code and The Body Code, Unlocking Your Body's Ability to Heal Itself. He's also the founder and CEO of Discover Healing, a holistic education platform that provides training and certifies practitioners worldwide. They're going to join me today to chat all about holistic healing, the power of energy, and his emotion code method. Welcoming now to the show are my dear friends, Dr. Bradley Nelson and Anna Devere. Welcome, superstars.
Hey.
Thanks for having me on. Great to be here.
Great to have you. Okay, let's jump right in. So, Dr. Nelson, taking a look back to my understanding as a child, You suffered 2 life-threatening illnesses, and while they were healed, it was not done with traditional Western medicine, but rather by separating alternative methods that tapped into the power of energy. Quite fascinating stuff. And it was these experiences that are really at the root of your journey and ultimately shaped your life moving forward. Now, you're the creator of the emotion code and the body code and have spoken and written extensively on these topics. For our audience members who are unfamiliar with the emotion code and the body code, how does your modality work?
Well, essentially, if you think about the emotional experiences that you have had in your life, we've all hit emotional highs, we've hit emotional lows, and it's the emotional lows that tend to create long lasting effects for us. And what we now are understanding is that those times when you used to cry yourself to sleep as a child, or listening to your parents argue, or having someone in your life that passes away, or relationships that break up, or your parents divorce, or your own divorces, things like that, all that emotional energy that you have experienced in your life can be still with you in the form of what you might call emotional baggage. It literally is the energy of those emotions that becomes trapped in the body. Quantum physicists understand this because the body is an energy field. We're made of pure energy. If you look at your hand, it looks solid, but if you zoom in on your hand with a big enough microscope, you see it's just made of energy. Ultimately, you're looking at an atom. It's just made of energy. So when you develop a trapped emotion, what's happening is you've gone through some emotional experience that's been a little bit too much for you to take, or you've decided not to feel that emotion. You've decided to stuff that emotion. And so it hasn't expressed. And so what happens is these emotional energies can result in physical pain later on in life. They're an underlying cause of things like depression and anxiety and phobias and panic attacks and PTSD and eating disorders. They're also an underlying cause of every disease process that we've seen now in 35 years of doing this around the world. So it's something that people need to know about.
It's all interconnected, and it's interesting because you've created this incredible roadmap for those seeking a path to healing, and you're definitely set to continue changing lives. In fact, according to a survey by the National Institute of Health, nearly 1 out of 3 people in the US are seeking holistic healthcare solutions. So you definitely have an audience of people eager to learn from you. Now, Anna, I know you have some experience with this modality. I'd love to hear your story and how it factored into your life.
Well, I was introduced to the emotion code a long time ago, about a decade ago, and it was in relation to adopting a child. And someone said to me, the history of that child's unknown. You might want to check this out. And I kept that in the back of my mind because when you adopt a baby, you don't really see that. So flash forward, my niece was having a really difficult time and developed symptoms over the course of a year and a half that were debilitating. I will tell you, her parents and family members were traditional doctors, and we were looking at this for her uh, ugh, to a very frustrating degree because everyone's trying to problem solve this poor girl, and she became skeletal in weight, couldn't leave her home, couldn't attend college, and I finally. Because everyone's a doctor, I don't want to weigh in on this real, everybody's got a strong opinion.
Right.
And of course it's emotional because it's a child. But I suggested to her mom, I think you should take a look at the emotion code. And very quickly that worked for her. Today the woman is married, has a child, and we really thought we were going to lose her. So to me, that was the biggest testimony of what the power of the emotion code actually was.
That's fascinating. Dr. Nelson, this must warm your heart. And
It
now,
does.
now you've been talking about the emotion code as a powerful yet simple way to rid yourself of this unseen emotional baggage that we've been talking about. And your method really does give individuals the tools to identify and release these trapped emotions and open the heart and body to the positive energies of the world, so to speak. Because to your point, as you just eloquently put, we all know that trapped emotions left untouched will fester in our life psychologically and linger on to further create physical problems. Now, focusing on the mental aspect of this, we know that there are millions of people in the US affected by mental illness each year. And the CDC has reported 1 in 5 US adults live with a mental illness. 50% of all lifetime mental illnesses also begin by the age of 14. So clearly, people are in need. How does the emotion code complement traditional mental health therapies, and where does it diverge?
Well, the interesting thing about it is that with the emotion code, what we're doing is we're actually using the subconscious mind, which has all the information about what's going on with a person and what emotional baggage they have. And what we're teaching people is how to communicate with that internal computer that has all the answers. And so we're able to find the energies of those emotions that are trapped in the body. So the emotion code is completely different from any other kind of cognitive therapy or really any other kind of mental therapy, because what we're doing is we're treating the body as an energy field and finding these emotional energies that are invisible that are trapped in the body. And I mean, I can't tell you how many times people have said to me, gee, I thought I dealt with all that. I went to therapy for that. I can't believe that's still showing up. Well, emotional energies are not released by traditional therapies. So you may have a trapped emotion of anger or resentment or frustration or grief in your body that is affecting you physically, mentally, emotionally. And you can go to traditional therapies, but it's not going to release that energy. The emotion code is how we can find and release that energy. And then that alone can make an enormous change. Not to say that cognitive type therapies aren't also definitely beneficial, but sometimes just releasing that emotional baggage is the biggest piece of the puzzle that's often missed.
So, Anna, I'm going to pivot here because I want to go back to your niece, but you witnessed this firsthand. So, in your opinion, how do you weigh in on the reasons for the success of this treatment versus other treatments?
Well, because I saw such bright minds trying to solve it and so many different modalities thrown from Eastern to Western, I think I want to just say and dovetail what Dr. Nelson says. It comes down to conscious versus subconscious. And some of the most powerful tools in traditional therapy can be cognitive behavioral therapy because it allows the person to weigh in. But what Dr. Nelson is saying is that you can get to the invisible root cause. And I know for my niece, it was painful for her to think the tool was in her hand, but once it clicked, I mean, we're tapping the subconscious versus the conscious brain because there's wisdom in that subconsciousness that allows her to be part of the process, if that makes sense. And that to me is the key to any modality. Shifting a patient is when they are really a part of the equation. There's really their wisdom in their body that's inherently part of the solution. That's why I think it worked.
Well, Dr. Nelson, you've turned Anna Devere into a believer.
Yeah, for sure.
She could be on your PR team. Now, doctor, you just as any other wellness or healthcare field, there are always skeptics, right? So looking back at your journey, what's the most common skepticism you've encountered about your work and how do you address it?
Well, the most common skepticism really has been that it can't possibly be this simple. It can't possibly be this easy. It's got to be more complicated because we're used to things being complicated. But the reality of it is, Albert Einstein, many, many years ago, said the medicine of the future will be the medicine of frequencies. No one had any idea what he was talking about at the time. But now here we are in 2024, and we're finally beginning to realize, oh, the medicine of frequencies looks like this. Treating the body as an energy field it's completely different from Western medicine, from pharmaceutical medicine. No surgery involved, but these bodies are pure energy. That's what we are, and we're finally waking up to that. And when you actually address the body as an energy field, which is essentially what we're doing with the emotion code, and when we're talking to the internal computer, with the subconscious mind within each one of us, that is essentially a binary computer, it's easy to get answers. The subconscious mind is very willing to give those answers, and that's what we teach people how to do with the emotion code. So you can do it yourself. You can find your own emotional baggage. Other people can help you. We have certified 13,000 practitioners around the world. And so, yeah, it actually is really easy. But that is the biggest skepticism that people have. But once they try it and they realize, oh my gosh, dad's back pain's gone, or my sister finally got pregnant and had a baby when she tried in vitro for 10 years. That's
Right.
the kind of thing that happens.
Well, it's clear these skeptics have something to learn because your book received worldwide acclaim and best-selling success, and it's filled with countless real-life examples of self-healing with your method from your many years of clinical practice. And to Anna's very powerful testimonial with her niece, seeing is believing. Now, Anna, how has working with the emotion code changed your perspective on energy healing?
So I kind of wanted to dive in on the scientific side. I actually went to school for massage and body work. I loved learning about anatomy and the mind body connection, of course, is always talked about. But But I really credit the Emotion Code and books like the Emotion Code for kind of pushing me into a lifelong learning situation. And then in my own experience, as the world has caught up to Dr. Nelson's theories, and there's platforms like Gaia TV that talk about every kind of modality. It's like the world's finally caught up, so that Dr. Nelson's not in the weeds proving that the energy even matters, and the field of quantum physics proves that out as well. But I'm just excited now that he can push the frontier even further, because seeing is believing, and having put my hand on a lot of bodies, it's really amazing to me that now people are widely accepting energy medicine. I know it from my experience, and not just from my niece's treatment.
Things always come full circle, don't they?
Yeah.
Now, Dr. Nelson, for those out there listening who are interested in starting the self-healing journey, what are the most important first steps?
Well, getting a copy of the Emotion Code for yourself is a great way to go. It's available on Audible, so if you like to listen, you can listen to it. It's available anywhere books are sold. It's an easy book. It's not difficult, even though we're talking about principles of quantum physics and things like that. We're talking to it on about a 4th grade level, and so anybody can read this book and understand it. In fact, kids can read this book and are reading the book and are having success working with their friends and family members and so on. So that's a very exciting thing. By the way, this also works on animals. We now know that animals develop emotional baggage, and the biggest cause of their behavioral and physical issues also, just like for human beings, seems to be emotional baggage. And so you can learn how to work on your animals too. And there's no placebo effect there. So having it work with animals is a great proof that it's real.
Caesar Million, here we come. The dog whisperer is coming to compete with you. So what don't you do, Dr. Nelson? Now, before we wrap up, Anna, any discover your potential takeaways?
I would just like to say, I'm a big advocate for people discovering their potential. And what I'm so proud to highlight Dr. Nelson today is that his approach is the same. You can literally buy a book and change your life. I don't say that very often. So please understand, we want you to not just reach the point where you're treating symptoms in your life. Take a look at your life. What do you want more of? See what's out there for you. And in order to discover your true potential, get past some of these emotional blocks, I guarantee you'll find an interesting and fascinating journey if you follow the Emotion Code in your life.
Very well said. You just found your co-author, Dr. Nelson.
I'm so excited. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna.
Yeah.
You're awesome.
Well, that's a wrap, my dear friends. That was our Discover Your Potential segment, brought to you by The Wellness Way. That was the incredible veteran holistic physician, Dr. Bradley Nelson. Definitely be sure to visit Discover Healing, his holistic education platform, at discoverhealing.com, and check him out at drbradleynelson.com, or you can check him out on the gram at official Bradley Nelson. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. To see more of Anna Devere, head to discoveryourpotentialshow.com. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Your Home TV with Kathy Ireland and their channel partners. Head to yourhometv.com for free, family-friendly programming, streaming 24/7.
Gogo Bethke, the social media queen of real estate, teaches you the secrets to success through her own journey. From immigrant to entrepreneur, watch how she paved her way to $1.8 billion in sales. Watch Gogopreneur on yourhometv.com.
Tune in to A Moment of Zen, Saturday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by CO2 Lift. As we age, our skin loses moisture and elasticity, causing wrinkled skin. You can reverse this aging process with CO2 Lift. CO2 Lift utilizes the powerful benefits of carbon dioxide to lift, tighten, and regenerate your skin. This simple, painless at-home carboxytherapy treatment is scientifically proven to reverse the aging process. You will see reduction in wrinkles, increase in luminosity, and improve pigmentation, sagging, skin tone, and radiance. For more information or to order CO2 Lift, go to CO2Lift.com.
Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up in just a few minutes in our Going Deep segment, brought to you by CO2 Lift. Today, we're featuring Dr. Michael Reed. He's a skilled cosmetic gynecologist who is passionate about helping women feel confident and revitalized. With over 22 years of experience in women's health, he's dedicated his career to mastering cosmetic gynecology and staying current on advancements in the field. He takes a holistic approach to patient care, combining non-invasive methodologies with hormone therapies and surgical procedures to deliver thorough and personalized care. His patients include Hollywood A-list celebrities, foreign royalty, working mamas, and single women, all seeking awareness, options, and a solution to improve their health and revitalize their sex lives. As a board-certified OBGYN, Dr. Reed truly understands the anatomical intricacies of genital plastic surgery, and he has an aesthetic eye for creating beautiful, natural-looking results. Who wouldn't want that? Now, sex and sexuality are a part of life. Clearly, aside from reproduction, sex can be about intimacy and pleasure, as it should be. Sexual activity offers so many surprising benefits, and sexual health is more than just avoiding diseases and unplanned pregnancies. It's also about recognizing that sex is such an important part of your life. Today, he joins me to demystify sexual shame and talk openly about women's health and wellness, chatting about the health benefits of sexual pleasure, how to maximize celebration of self, and the many proprietary benefits of carbon dioxide therapy for vaginal rejuvenation. That's right, you've heard it trending, carboxytherapy. Welcoming now to the show is my expert on the microphone, Dr. Michael Reed. Welcome, superstar.
Hey, man, that was amazing.
Let's dive right in. Now, we might not all want to admit it, but most of us have a preferred word for vagina. Of course, I'm all for those who prefer to solely use the correct anatomical term, but vagina nicknames are in fact here to stay. And a lot of them are quite funny. And really, life is boring when it's not spent having a bit of laughter over terms like lady garden, right? So, Dr. Reed, what are the top names that you have heard women refer to their vagina?
I've heard all kinds of names. We hear cookie, box, muff, my down below, but the crazy thing is, why aren't we using vagina and vulva? I can't even use it on the internet. If I try to share and educate using appropriate terms so that we can get rid of the shame behind the word vagina and vulva, I'm immediately shadow banned. So the important thing that our audience needs to know is, hey, we need to fight for the fact that I can use the word penis on internet and Instagram, but I can't use the word vagina and vulva. And that's where the real problem is.
I couldn't agree more. We're at the beginning of redressing the wrongs and misinformation around this neglected organ, but so much more work has to be done. In 2022, a study by gynecologists at the University of Manchester, England, found that less than 10% of women could accurately label female genitalia. Like the clitoris is even more taboo than the vagina, and arguably the most neglected human organ by medicine. It's still inadequately depicted in most medical textbooks and barely touched upon in medical training. And this is a very serious problem. To your point, women have been injured by this lack of knowledge through botched reconstruction surgeries, anti-incontinence procedures, obstetric tears and repairs, and vulvectomies. So this is something that we have to address. But going back to addressing the misinformation and the uneducation of the medical community, why do you think there's shame and embarrassment in the word sex and vagina? Is it cultural?
It's a societal thing. I mean, you got to think about it. The United States is obsessed with sex. We are obsessed, but we want to act as though we don't want to talk about it. We use terms like my private parts. Well, what about my personal parts? There's sex in itself, sexual desire in itself is a need, not a want. It's a need. It's a human need. And I think today, in today's society, that shame is carrying over, and it's affecting women and their ability to fully experience their sex life equally as men do. I mean, women have been left behind. It's kind of like they've been sitting on a shelf, and after you deliver babies, nothing else matters. Whatever longevity you have in regards to your vulva and vagina, that's all you get. And so I personally feel that it's a human need, and why there is shame, we have to eliminate it. We have to eliminate it. One of the things you were talking about was education. How can we educate women and get them to educate them quickly? I'll give you one quick thing that would educate women quicker than anything else. If I could get every OBGYN, when they do an exam, to provide the patient with a handheld mirror and point out, this is your clitoris, this is the labia minora, this is the labia majora, this is where your problem is coming from. Let me open the speculum and show you what we have going on. Now, if you did that, we're going to begin to change the landscape as it means for women in the United States and in the world. But that was a little off, but that's kind of a little bit of a reason why I feel that the shame still exists.
What you said is so important, and that piece of audio right there should be reshared. You are 100% right, and it begins with knowing your own body and being knowledgeable of your different genitalia, of the different areas within, and really understanding that. And knowledge is power. Now, what are the different requests you're seeing in your practice surgically?
I see all kinds of requests. I mean, I see non-surgical requests, I see surgical requests, I see everything. But I think the important thing that women need to understand as far as what are they really requesting, I often try to figure out what is the proposed question. What they're saying to me when they say, oh, I want to be a little bit tighter, what they're really saying to me is, I want to feel my partner again. I want to have intimate moments with my partner again. I want to feel love. I want to give love. So we're treating a whole number of things. So it's not necessarily the procedures that we do, it's finding the right physician that does these procedures, because we're cosmetic gynecologists. Cosmetic gynecologists are board certified OBGYNs who have gone out to get extra training to address the modern day concerns of women. What are the modern day concerns of women? Well, I'll tell you this much: when it comes to women's sexuality, it's been set on a bookshelf and hasn't been touched since 2020, maybe. When the last time I've heard a patient being asked, how are your orgasms? How are you feeling? Do you feel as though you can have intercourse the way that you would like to? So we are addressing the unproposed questions that women want the answers to. And so as far as procedures, we're doing whatever it takes to address the modern day concerns of women. That's the procedures that I personally try to achieve.
Amen to that. Now, what category of women seek your services? I mean, do you see more regular women, models, actresses, porn stars? Curious to know also about the median age of your patients.
Yeah, so the women that I see are women who have said, you know what? Sex is not a want, it's a need. It is something that I desire, it's something that I want to improve upon, and it's something that I'm supposed to have because I'm able to thrive, because I'm able to have enjoyable intimacy. So if that's the patient I see, I'm seeing celebrities, I'm seeing porn stars, I'm seeing soccer moms, I'm seeing my Davis community moms. I see all women because all women are deserving of this, right? And so what I really want to get out is not necessarily, okay, come see me and take care of me. What we want to do is change the landscape for women so that they can go anywhere they want in the United States or world and have their modern day concerns addressed. That's the
Which
woman I
which
see.
currently they're not being addressed. Now, we'll go back to one of my favorite products that is sponsoring the segment, CO2 Lift V. Now, CO2 Lift V, it lifts, it hydrates, rejuvenates in just 3 applications. I'm a huge fan. Helps tighten and lifts it all, basically using carbon dioxide. It's so simple. I gave it a shot and I found that it enhanced circulation down there undoubtedly by rushing this oxygen-rich blood to tissue as described, and you can actually feel it. This is very regenerating, and you can actually see the transition over the course of the month. It improves sensitivity and lubrication. This was my experience. Now, you're a well-known cosmetic gynecologist, all about vaginal rejuvenation. How do you feel about carboxy therapy for the vagina, and what are the best use cases for the vaginal treatment?
Carboxy therapy is a game changer. I first encountered it in my travels to the Philippines, Jamaica, India, and the Middle East. It's something that's been used in other countries, but usually it's given as a gas. When I found out you could do carboxy therapy as a gel in the privacy of your own home, I had to learn more about it. And when I began to learn more about it in terms of the gel application, I was pleasantly surprised. Most of the patients that I use this cream on fall into one of the few categories. Number one is the woman who comes in with her husband and she's saying, I can't have intercourse, he can't touch me, it hurts. It's almost like it's weeping. And I tried to examine her. There's no possible way to examine her. But yet, I have carboxy therapy, which she would be able to apply. And I have her apply this specifically. It's real easy. You just mix one big pack with a little pack, you mix it together, put it on the vulva, put it in the vulva, and go to sleep. Wake up the next day and wash it off. I have them do this for 10 days. And when they come into the office, I am now able to do a thorough examination. I'm able to put that mirror that we talked about in front of them so that she can see and understand her anatomy and understand the processes that are occurring. So that's one case, and we call that genital urinary syndrome of menopause. Another case that I use CO carboxy therapy is patients that are suffering from lichen sclerosis. This is an autoimmune disease. This is a disease we really don't completely understand, but it causes terrible itching. It can cause discomfort. It can make orgasms difficult to achieve. It can make it such that you can't be intimate, even personally or even with your partner. And so we're stuck in the same situation. But carboxy therapy can really help because it improves the collagen, the elastin, and new blood vessel growth, which then increases the integrity and the resiliency of the vagina and also allows me to continue treatment. Lastly, the person that I use this on is the patient who has come to me and says, I wanted a labiaplasty and I took the brave jump. I went against society and said, I'm going to do this. They do this, and a poorly executed labiaplasty is performed by another surgeon. They come to me, and I'm able to do a procedure in which I'm able to fashion new labia from when there were none before. And so the healing properties of CO2 lift are remarkable. So they get a 5-day treatment. So I have a patient coming in very soon where we'll do 5 days solid treatment of CO2 Lift V to help with healing. So the places that I use it are healing, lichen sclerosis, genital urinary syndrome of menopause. But when you think of all of those things, we are helping women, we are helping the modern day women by having this tool, CO2 Lift V. This is a new tool that wasn't present before, but is now present today. And this is along the same things that we need to teach all gynecologists about, not just
You have me
cosmetic
sold. You
gynecologists.
have me sold. This is a miracle product. But the explanation you just gave on lichen sclerosis, which to your point is such an inflammatory condition that is not very well understood. The fact that this could mitigate the pain and the discomfort associated with lichen sclerosis seems very, very proprietary and sustainable. Now, let's talk about the benefits. We have about 2 minutes left. The benefits of having consistent sex. So, for starters, pleasure and better sleep as your body releases oxytocin, also called the love or intimacy hormone, and endorphins during an orgasm. And the combination of these hormones act as sedation. But really, how important is intimacy in a relationship from your perspective?
Intimacy is very important to a relationship. There's a triangle of love that I think that there's an important triangle that needs to be in place. At the top of that triangle is love. To the right of that triangle is sex, and to the left is romance. So sex is important. If you don't understand it, we need to educate you. But again, sex is not a want; it's a need. And so to have the intimacy and to be closer is why the easiest way to say it is if you can be in a relationship where you respect love, romance, and sex, you can experience a slice of heaven here on earth.
You should write a book and coin that. Hallmark, right there. That was the hallmark moment, Dr. Reed. Now, it's true. In a study of immunity, listen to how spot on you are. In a study of immunity in in people in romantic relationships. People who had frequent sex 1 to 2 times a week had more immunoglobulin A, IgA, in their saliva. And people who had infrequent sex, less than once a week, had significantly less IgA. And IgA is the antibody that plays a role in preventing illnesses and is the first line of defense against human papillomavirus, right? So it's all correlated. Now, what's the average cost? Very quickly, like I said, about a minute left, and then we have the I would nevers. But what is the average cost of a vaginal rejuvenation in-office procedure these days?
Well, so that's a difficult. See, every procedure I do is in office under local anesthesia. I can tighten, I can do everything. I can do non-invasive surgical procedures, CO2 lift V. So the price could be from 1,800 to 100,000. I don't know, whatever it is that it takes for you to eliminate that cognitive dissatisfaction is what it is.
There are solutions as little as
So there's
$1,800, ladies.
That's right. Not too low, but yeah, we can get you in there.
Yeah, listen, for the cost of 3 Botox sessions, you can have a very, very looking vajayjay. Now, as a cosmetic gynecologist, let's do this. I would never, please list 3 things.
I would never get a labiaplasty done in the hospital under my insurance in the hospital by an undertrained or poorly trained physician. That's one I wouldn't do.
Yes.
Yes. The second thing is I would run away from any physician that told me that I couldn't use vaginal estradiol. Vaginal estradiol is safe for those breast cancer survivors, uterine cancer survivors, and vaginal estradiol can help prevent UTIs, vaginal dryness. And so any doctor that tells you, no, you can't use that, they're not savvy. I'd run from that one as well. Lastly, the person I would run from is the physician who is trying to sell you something. We're not trying to sell anybody anything. We're not charlatans. We are physicians who are listening to the modern day concerns of women. We want to change the landscape for women. So find the physician who will listen to your concerns, willing to ask questions, and willing to find solutions. That's all I got.
Well, that's everything. Now, if only there were 10 of you, but there's only one,
hey,
and you're in California.
Listen. One of the things that I'm trying to do is create more gladiators that are like me. What does that mean? What have I done? I created an institute. It's called the Institute of Restorative and Cosmetic Gynecology. It's a training institute. I will teach any physician how to do these procedures. I'll teach them how to talk to the patients. I'll teach them everything they need to know. I'm out here wanting to change the landscape. Honestly, I want to, because it needs to be done. I hear
and I feel your passion. I can.
These doctors can come and they can pick my pockets. I'm going to give them everything and anything, because the more doctors we can send out, the better and quicker we can change the landscape for women.
Well, we are out of time officially, my dear friend. Thank you so much for such a transparent, informative, and all around great educational interview. You are amazing.
Thank you very much.
That was our Going Deep segment, brought to you by CO2 Lift, and that was the amazing Dr. Michael Reed, also known as the Cosmetic GYN. You could head directly to their website at thecosmeticgyn.com, or you can check them out at labiaminorareconstruction.com. Of course, Institute for Restorative and Cosmetic Gynecology is ircgusa.com. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Your Home TV with Kathy Ireland and their channel partners. Head to yourhometv.com for free, family-friendly programming, streaming 24/7.
Levi Riggs on Your Home TV. Check out Harvesting Hits. Country singer and farmer Levi Riggs combines life on the farm with life on the road. Get ready for stories of perseverance, passion, and the power of pursuing your dreams against all odds. Check out Levi at leviriggs.com.
Tune in to A Moment of Zen, Saturday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. A Moment of Zen is sponsored by FinTech TV.
FinTech TV, the newest streaming channel focused exclusively on the business of blockchain, digital assets, and sustainability. Broadcasting from our studio on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange with daily reports from NASDAQ, global expansion, and 24/7 coverage. Become part of the launch. Head to fintech.tv/invest. Fintech.tv/invest.
Tune in to A Moment of Zen Saturday nights from 9 to 10 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York.
Well, that's a wrap, my dear friends. We are at the end of our date. Remember to join me right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, every Saturday night from 9 to 10 p.m. Or you could head to 710WOR.iHeart.com/A Moment of Zen. Also remember that we're on Traverse TV Sundays at 1 p.m. and on YouTube Sundays at 2 p.m. Eastern. We upload all of our episodes. It's free programming to you and very, very entertaining. We're also available on Your Home TV's Kathy Ireland Worldwide platform. We have our own channel there, and you could head to mox.yourhometv.com. Thank you for listening to us. It's been an absolute pleasure being your host. Thanks again to all of our sponsors that continue to make this show possible. And remember that happiness is the only thing that multiplies when you share it. We'll be back next week.